Hello and welcome back to my channel. Saturday morning comes round increasingly quickly. I couldn't believe when I woke up this morning that it was Saturday. I don't know whether it's a sign of old age, but I was so convinced it was Wednesday. But never mind. I don't know how it could have been Wednesday. I've had a really busy week and a mixture of real enjoyment and quite stressy things. But that's life, isn't it? I'm never going to say, you know, can't do this because of life. I think often we have to do things in spite of what life throws at us. I know for me, we got up on Monday morning, Joe had the dentist. Now I was fine because I'd been for my checkup and I was okay in that. But even something like that, you know, I don't think it matters what age you are. You'd rather do things for your kid. So if you've got a kid who needs a filling, I think if you could, you'd choose to do it for them. I know I would. I mean, it was no big issue, but stuff like that would have stressed me at one time and I'd have wanted to eat or drink over it. And likewise on Tuesday we had the hospital. And again, I don't know whether it's the old excuse thing, but stuff like that would have been a big enough stress for me to use it as an excuse and say, well, while we're at the Park Hospital, they actually have a superb restaurant. Let's go and have a meal. Now I'm lucky because in that scenario Joe would say, I'm not bothered. If you want to eat, that's fine, but I'm not bothered. And so because he's not bothered, then I'm not bothered. And one of the things we actually spoke about whilst we were out and about somewhere this week, I think we were sitting waiting for an appointment somewhere, was my lack of, I'm going to use the word fat, I don't mind if it offends other people, it's the word I use and it's what I used to be. My lack of fat friends. And this is not to offend any of my old friends or whatever, but when I was 17 stone plus, shall we say, when I was on the part of my journey between kind of 17 stone and 22 stone, I chose, whether it was consciously or subconsciously, to hang out with a lot of people who were like me, very overweight and very, very keen on eating out. So I made a hobby and a pastime, and when I say I used to eat out a minimum of 5 times a week. I'm not exaggerating. If I wasn't out for lunch, most days I'd be out for dinner. Because I had the freedom to do that and I had the choice to do that. And it became a hobby and a pastime. And the people I chose to do that with were people who were like-minded to me, who had that same hobby and that same pastime. And we loved to eat. And if anything, we encouraged each other and we cajoled each other and we justified each other stuff in our faces. And I've noticed that in the period of time I've been at Slimming World, and since I started to lose weight and I've gone down, I mean I was probably a good size 16 when I joined Slimming World and gone down to what I am now, those friends have all fallen by the wayside. Now it's not because we've had falling out or disagreements, because we haven't. I'm not the kind of person who does that. But we've lost contact because we don't have the same things in common anymore. I still care about the people and I'm sure they still care about me, but we just don't have the same things in common anymore. And one of the things I was kind of examining in my head was, how would I feel? And I'm thinking of 4 particular friends who I love dearly, who were all my size, who I'm talking about around the sort of 18, 20, 22 stone mark. How would I feel if all 4 of them turned up at Slimming World on Saturday morning? Would I be really, really chuffed, or would it frighten me? And if I'm honest, it would quite frighten me because I am so afraid of being sucked back into those old habits and behaviours. I know what a fine line I will walk today. Now, this week I've had occasion to eat out a couple or 3 times. I've had really, really nice meals out. I said in my video last week that my friend had just pulled up and we were going out and we went for a really, really nice Thai meal. Now Thai food is not the easiest food to food optimise, but I just let go of it for that one meal and I chose to have, you know, what I wanted. The starter that I wanted, they didn't have, which was a bit of a bummer. The second choice, they didn't have, so I went with something else. I'm not going to list what I ate, except to say that my main course came in an edible dish. I think it's coming to something when you don't only eat the food, but you can eat the crockery. I did manage 2/3 of the food and 1/4 of the dish, but then I stopped. And why did I stop? I stopped because I was full. I could have kept going. I know I could have ate more. I could have stuffed it down the way I used to. And I used to have an elderly friend in church whose name was Betty. And she used to say, oh goodness, I am TTT. That stood for tummy touching table. Well, I could eat so much that my tummy overhung the table, I'm telling you. But I don't anymore. Because seriously, when I used to be out with my old work friend, who was coincidentally called Jo Day, she would say when we were out eating, she was a slim, probably size 10, 12 girl, never been any different. And she would say, I have had a sufficiency. And I used to think, I wonder what that means. Actually, I know, like, in theory what that means, but what does it mean in practice? Because I've never had one of those, you know? And I actually know now that when the forkful goes in, something in my brain seems to go, you've had a sufficiency. And I can stop. And I can quite comfortably leave food. And, you know, to think that I could get to that place. I was the girl who would have a spot of gravy left on my plate, so I'd butter a slice of bread to mop it up. I never left anything. Even if I didn't like it, I ate it. So that's been a good thing this week, because going for that time meal with Val and knowing when I had had a sufficiency and not feeling guilty because somebody else was paying and I didn't eat at all. I try very hard not to be a people pleaser and things like that today. I know my friend is not going to be offended if I don't clean my plate. The only person I struggle with that with today is my mum, and that's childhood stuff. So I choose not to eat a lot at my mum's today, because I know that if I sat down to one of my mum's size dinners, she would expect me to polish it all off. And I know my mum's like me, she can be very difficult. And she'd probably give me a bit extra to push me a bit further because she thinks that I don't eat enough. And believe me, I do. So that was lovely, that time meal was lovely. But I chose not to have a dessert. I had a starter. The guy came with the dessert menu. And yeah, you could have had banana fritters, which is something I really like. But I thought, hang on, if you've had a sufficiency, why are you thinking of trying to shove it down with something else? So I chose not to add coffee. And that was nice. And then, as I say, dentist Monday, hospital Tuesday, out all day Wednesday. Thursday, I spent the day with the lovely Susan one and only. And I have never experienced, it was like when I met Dawn the week before, I've never experienced time move so quickly. Because you're in good company and you want to be with those people. You've got a lot in common, stuff you want to talk about, you know, you have a laugh and it's easy company. The time flies. I mean, when Dawn and Phil came the week before, the day just went whiz. And then meeting up with Susan on Thursday, met at 10:30. And before we knew it, it's like 3:30 and we're in Jo Malone's having a good sniff at everything. But we had a nice walk around the city. Could have shown her a lot more of it, so I'm hoping you come back, Susan, because a lot more to show you. And we chose to go for lunch at Yo Sushi. And I know Susan's posted a couple of pictures on her Instagram because the lovely Susan one and only actually got me drinking water. At Yo Sushi, and those of you who go there will know, they have 2 taps on your table, one for sparkling water and one for filtered water. And you buy a glass and you literally refill it from your tap. And for me to do that, to actually drink, it was lovely. I actually quite enjoyed it. Doesn't mean I'll be doing it regularly, because some things are best kept for a special occasion. But what a nice experience. I mean, I've kept saying about going to Yo Sushi for ages. But to sit in a booth and have a conveyor belt going past you with all this, and you know me and sushi, all this lovely sushi on. And we tried all sorts. We had raw tuna, we had pork, we had vegetarian stuff, we had prawns, we had spicy chicken, we had vegetable tempura, which I think we both agreed wasn't the best thing that we had. We probably wouldn't order that again. But I think we had about 9 different dishes. And it was lovely. And it's not a high sin food, really. Okay, you've got to sin it. And the tempura would have pushed me over my sins for the day. That was my choice to order the vegetable tempura, not Susan's. But it was an experience. But again, you know, we didn't order a dessert. We're both Target members. We don't go that way these days. And Susan's used to eating in Thailand, and she knows the food, and there was stuff that she recognised on the sushi stuff that I wouldn't have recognised, and she was picking up, you know, this seaweed and this and that. And it was just a lovely experience, so that I think a meal out can be more than a meal. If you try something different, it becomes an experience. And I was thinking in future, you know, when I'm strapped for something to buy a friend for their birthday, I might give them an experience, not necessarily a food experience, but instead of giving them a bottle of perfume that's my choice or a piece of clothing that's my choice or whatever, I might actually buy people experiences in future, because I'm learning that as I get older, and it's experiences that matter. I know we talk about making memories. I'm not a great one for making memories. I'm a great one for having experiences today. Knowing me and the way I am, I'll have forgotten it by next year anyway, but it's the experience and it's being in the day. So, anyway, been to group, and I'm very much in the day today. I'm on my usual high from group, incredible place to be. Two bits of group news. Firstly, if you are a group member, next week in group, I think that's, yeah, for me it will be next Saturday, so it maybe starts this Monday for some people, or it will be the following Monday. You should be given a 10% off discount card for Iceland, which will be valid from the 9th of October until the 4th of November. But you have to be in group to get it. So for those of you who like to shop in Iceland, that's a good saving. A week on Monday, the new hi-fi bars come out, and they are the smooth toffee, whatever they are. And I was interested this morning because when Naomi was reading out the description of them, it actually says shortbread biscuit. So it would be better than the usual sort of cereal-y bar. They should be quite different. I won't promise to try them and review them for you because they don't appeal to me. I don't do that kind of thing. But I must say they do sound nicer than some of the others. So, and I think there'll be quite a change from people who don't really like cereal bars. So yeah, usual 3 cents, 2 for a healthy extra. Oh, Joe, can we show that salmon? Yeah, Joe loves tin salmon. I like it, but I don't have it as often as Joe does. He likes it on toasted ciabatta, don't you?
Yeah.
And in our house, have you got it in front of the camera?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is Morrison's skinless, boneless, pink salmon, right? This is £2.15, I think, currently in Morrison's, or £1.24 for the small can, which is 105 grams. Now, I was talking to my mum on the phone. We've been shopping in Morrison's, and I said, oh, Morrison's skinless, boneless salmon's a good price. Now, my mum will only buy skinless, boneless. That's what we tend to opt for, but there's nothing wrong if you like the skin or bones in it. And then I happened to say it's pink. Oh, my mother went off on one. Pink salmon? You don't eat pink salmon, you eat red salmon. Oh, do I? And I said to her mother, my mum's 86. Mother, I said, what's the difference? Well, I don't know, she says, but I think pink salmon comes from the wrong end of the fish. I have to try not to laugh because I'm like, which is the wrong end of the fish? It's debatable, isn't it? Do you like the gob end or the other end? I mean, I just like, and I went, oh, okay. So she's telling me you should only buy red salmon, Jane. You shouldn't be buying pink salmon. And I'm like, okay, Mum. I'm learning not to argue with my mum. I just give in these days and do what I want anyway. So I'm like, yeah, okay, Mum, okay. So I came off the phone and I said to Joe, Google it, as you do. What's pink salmon as opposed to red salmon? So Joe did Google it, didn't you? Red salmon is sockeye salmon, which is what we buy if we buy fresh salmon, right? Pink salmon is, I believe, something called lump salmon. It's just a different kind of salmon. It's not a different end of the fish, Mother. One thing that was interesting though was that pink salmon is 5% fat, whereas red salmon is 8% fat. They don't pick that up on Slimming World, do they? So we buy sockeye salmon steaks, which presumably are 8% fat. But you don't have to sin it because that's free on plan. One question I do want to ask, and I don't know if anybody could ever answer this question for me. Why do we have to sin smoked mackerel? Yeah, Joe?
Yeah.
Why do we have to sin smoked mackerel if we don't have to sin smoked salmon? What's the difference? I've never Googled it, I've never looked it up, but I'm just aware of it. I'm not a mackerel eater, Joe is. But yeah, why would I have to count my healthy extra C's, as I call them, for smoked mackerel, but I can eat smoked salmon until it comes out my ears? And funnily enough, when I first started on this plan, I wouldn't have given House-Rim smoked salmon. Joe's always eaten it, and I just didn't think I would like it. But as long as it's the thin cut stuff, or the, what do you call the bits that you get? Salmon? Trimmings. I can eat that, I like that. And I like smoked salmon with sushi, and it goes nice with scrambled egg. But yeah, I honestly thought I didn't like it. I turned my nose up at it and I'd never even tried it. And I think for me, maybe going through life, that's been true of a few foods. I've always gone, no, don't like that. What I meant was, don't think I'd like that, or my mum doesn't like it. Because there was a great one for eating the way my mum ate. I eat very differently to my mum today. But I think that's true of a lot of us. You know, we bring our children up to eat what we eat. Because what else would you do? You know, you're not going to cook a meal of something you don't like and feed your kids, even if it's healthy. And I think it's a trap we can fall into, that we feed our children on what we think we like, and we expect them to have the same taste as us. Now, when Joe was little, and when he started to go on to solids, I very much gave him a vegetarian diet. Because you do, don't you? You stew fruit, you veg, and you blitz it and everything. And he grew up, and I don't think this was my influence, I think this is the way you'd have grown up anyway, but he grew up with an absolute love of vegetables. So even when he was little, he'd eat his vegetables, leave his meat. He'd be full. I don't want that, I'm full. And I think he's a fine example of, I've never been able to influence him to eat like me. And you don't, do you? We don't have the same sort of taste in food.
No.
Whereas I love fat. Like, if you're going to offer me something, I'd love a pork chop with the fat round the edge. I love a steak, I'd go for sirloin steak or ribeye steak with some fat on it. I'd rather sin that than, I'd never eat rump steak, it's too dry. I like fillet, but I'm very much, I like fat. I like belly pork and black pudding and all the fatty things in life. Joe doesn't, not at all. He wouldn't even ever put butter on bread or stuff like that. So I think maybe we are born with our own natural taste, and maybe when our children reject some of the food that we give them, it isn't because they're rejecting us, it's because they just have a different taste. So it's a fine time to try them on something we don't necessarily like, because they just might. Something I've been looking at in my own behaviour this week is very much where I let things slip through my plan and trying to tighten up on it. Because this week at group, I got on the scales, and after my meals out and everything else, you know, my sticky rice at the Thai restaurant, I was going to have boiled rice, which is free, and then I thought, why am I doing this? If I think Thai food, I think sticky rice. So I had sticky rice, which is definitely not sin-free. But been back on plan outside of the meals I've had and everything. Went to group this morning and got a 1 pound gain, which takes me to 9 stone 1.5. That's fair. That's very fair. And what I have found this week is your weight shifts, because I am back to having to put a belt on my jeans because I was losing them. Now, 2 weeks ago, when I only weighed a pound more than I weigh today, my jeans were quite tight. So I think when you do lose a bit, gain a bit, lose a bit, gain a bit, it shifts around your body. And if you took a pound of butter and spread it all over your body, it probably moisturised you nicely, but it wouldn't show as bulk. So like at Target, dipping up and down a pound and a half, half a pound is where I'm accepting. I'm happy to be, and I'm not going to berate myself or beat myself up for gaining a pound. I'm not even feeling negative about it. I'm feeling really positive. For the week that I've had, a 1 pound gain is fair. But one of the things I was really conscious of this week was letting things just slip through the net. And actually sitting down, I don't know whether we were walking when we were talking about it, but I was saying there are so many occasions when I can fall foul of it. I go to group on a Saturday morning, I have a coffee with semi-skimmed milk in it. Now, we don't have cow's milk at home. Joe can't have it, and I have coconut milk. But I have semi-skimmed milk at group and think nothing of it. Naomi has measures there and says who sins or accounts for their coffee their milk on a Saturday morning. Nobody said they did. So I'm conscious now, if I have a coffee at group on a Saturday morning, I count 2 sins for it. Because why would I think I could spend those sins or healthy extra Z choices twice? You know, if you've got a £10 note in your purse, you only get to spend it once, don't you? So that was something I've been mindful on for the last month or so. I've been putting down 2 sins for my coffee at group. When we were at the hospital on Tuesday, the hospital we were at, this private hospital we were at, they make the best coffee in the county. And I had 2 white ones, so I sinned them. I wouldn't usually. I think I deserve this just for being here. When I go out with my friend Val, she drives the same car as Joe, she has Polo, and on the little shelf under the glove compartment she has about 4 bags of sweets lined up. There's fruit sweets, there's toffees, there's mints and there's extra strong mints. And usually if I'm in her car my hand would go like that. I might only have 1, or if I'm feeling a bit whatever I might have 2. If I do that, do I sin it? No, most of the time no. I don't even think about it. I think it's a sweet, you suck it, it disappears while it's in your mouth. How can that make you fat? Well, it can and it does. And then when I get to Val's house, if I go back to her house, there's a little table, side table at the side of my chair. And on there she always has a bowl of pecan nuts and cashew nuts. My hand used to go like that. I'd have 2 black coffees, but my hand would go like that. And I've had to say to her now, can you move that bowl? Can you put it on a different table? Because it's an automatic reaction to just, now I might only have 3 or 4 nuts, but that's sins or healthy extra seed choices. And they're not like, they don't vanish, they don't just go poof, I don't count. Just things like that, just that little extra, you might cut a piece of cheese, it weighs 34 grams, what do you do with the other 4 grams? I cut it off. But if I don't think about it, the bit I've cut off goes in my mouth. I might as well have left it on. So it's just silly things like that, that at the end of a week, even if it only adds up to an extra 10 sins, 12 sins, if you've already accounted for your 105 for the week, which I would have done, because I rarely go below 100, shall we say, for the week, that I've got no leeway, I've got no buffer room. And if I'm going to keep doing that, I'm going to keep taking the odd sweet from Val's cart, the odd nut from Val's table, the extra coffee at group. If I'm going to keep doing that, then I need to allow myself a buffer and say I'm not going to go above 11 or 12 sins a day, but call it 15. Because it's so easy to say, well, for my sins yesterday, I had 2 packs of Sainsbury's sushi, which was 5 sins. I had 725 mils of coconut milk, which was 6 sins, that's 11. I had 1 for a jacket potato, that's 12, and I had 1 which made my healthy extra A into a Costa coconut latte. So I had 13 sins yesterday.
Sorry, you're at 23 minutes.
Thanks, Joe. If I keep doing that, and I keep going between the 13 and 15 like I usually do, but then picking up the little extras, and then I go on a Saturday and I say, I've gained a pound or a pound and a half and I don't know why. Now I'm examining myself a little bit closer, I'm starting to see why. And if your friend, if you're at a friend's or something, they offer you a glass of squash or whatever, do you really know it's sugar-free? Because most of my friends don't have sugar-free squash, because most of my friends don't have a weight problem, but they have children and they choose not to give their children sugar-free squash. So if I accept a squash, my friend's got an 11-year-old, if I accept a squash at her house, I've got to remember it's not sugar-free, she doesn't give her daughter sugar-free stuff. You can't expect her to have a bottle in just in case I call once in a blue moon. It's little things like that. And one of my friends always tells me this is why little pickers wear bigger knickers. I just want to show you one quick thing before I go. Remember a few weeks ago I said on the 8th day the devil invented chocolate? Well, Liz, the lovely journalist who did a video with me on my channel, bought me this for my birthday. And I think it says, remember Jane? On the 8th day the devil invented chocolate? Yeah?
Yep.
But I just thought, what a lovely idea, what a lovely thought. So every time I have a coffee in the car when I'm on my way somewhere, I can remember why it's not a hot chocolate. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for staying with us. And for anybody who's going to SlimCon, have a good time. We'll be back next Saturday. Remember, works if you work it. I don't think it will if you don't. Take care. Bye.